Hey, this is Big John of Big John Technology, and this video is going to be about SD cards. So there's a lot of information out there about SD cards, and I hope this helps you with your purchasing decision. If you're buying if you're buying an SD card for your Wii U or your DS or your mobile device. All right, so let's get started. First of all, there's different ways of classifying SD cards or differences between SD cards. So first of all, on your left here we have a basic SD card. First of all, we're talking about the size here. This is a basic SD card, and this is a micro SD card. As you can see, this is all one piece here. This is the basic SD card, and this is the micro SD card, which is a lot smaller. Now there are some size limitations as far as capacity limitations on the micro SD. I believe it can only go up to 32 gigabytes, I want to say. And for these cards, you really, if you're going to buy a micro SD card, make sure it comes with an adapter, so you can use it on any SD card reader, just in case, because sometimes they don't really accept the micro SD cards. So you might want to get it with an adapter. There's another type of adapter that lets you connect it through a USB port, which is very useful too. So alright, so that's pretty much it about size. There's micro and there's SD. Micro SD has the capacity limitation. Next of all, let's talk about the capacity. Alright, so as you can see on the left here, we have an SD high capacity, HC. That's what the HC stands for, is high capacity 1. These can actually go up to 32 gigabytes. And then there's, I believe it's an XHC, which I don't own one at the moment, but that goes above 32 gigabytes. And so that's if you've seen an SD card with just SD, that's usually, I'm not entirely sure what the maximum size is on a basic SD card, but usually nowadays, if you're doing high definition video and things like that, you usually want to go with a bigger size. SD high capacity goes up to 32 gigabytes. This one here is 16 gigabytes, which apparently is 4 hours of video. I'm not sure what the definition that is, but it says 4 hours. That can vary a lot if you're using high definition. It also varies depending on where you're filming, if there's a lot of light, a lot of colors, things like that. So it does vary a lot. So 16 gigabytes is pretty good if you use. I use this on my Nintendo Wii U for the Wii games. And then we have, okay, so that's capacity wise. Capacity wise on the micro SD, you only go up to 32 gigabytes, I believe. If you have more information about that, feel free to leave it in the comments. Capacity, that's pretty much it. So SDHC, and then there's SDXC SD, I believe, which is extended high capacity, I believe. That goes above 32 gigabytes. Pretty plain and simple. If you're going to do a lot of high def video, you want bigger size. The bigger the better is usually the way to go. Alright, next we have speed. Now, speed is very, very important depending on what you're going to be doing with it. Again, high definition video, we want higher speeds. Now, they kind of try to classify the speeds using these classes. If you can see, this is class 10, but it's not always clear cut. For example, depending on the brand, like this is class 10, goes 45 megabytes per second. Which is very fast, because if you buy a cheaper brand, you might only get 10 megabytes per second. So the higher the better. If it's not it's plain on the label or any of the packaging, you might want to consider looking at another brand. But usually that kind of signifies that it's a faster speed. And then we have this UHS nowadays, which is, I believe it's ultra high speed or something like that. It's UHS, and this is a UHS 1. UHS 1 has can potentially read and write it much higher speeds. I believe it's like 103 megabytes per second. Again, don't always go by the UHS 1 or the class 10 on the packaging. It should clearly say 45 megabits per second, and that always varies. That's why they put this little asterisk thing there. So it should be clear on the packaging. If it's not, you might want to consider something else. Again, so that's the speed. Now, if you can see this micro SD card, this one is a class 2. Not entirely sure. I don't remember what actual read and write speed. I bought this before I was a little more educated on the whole SD card thing. I think I just bought it just because it was cheaper. Like, for example, we have let's see what else I got here. Kingston. This one doesn't. This is just a micro SD. This is, you can't class. What class is that? I don't even know what class that is. So again, usually the higher the speed, the better. But if you're using it on something that doesn't require high speed, like I'm not entirely sure what. If you'd need higher speeds, like on a Nintendo DS or a Nintendo Wii U, but you will need high speeds if you're using HD video or awesome, like really high megapixel camera or something. You want high speeds because it's a lot of data that has to be written, and you want it to be written very quickly. For example, I did have a camera once that I was using a really slow SD card that really screwed up my video. Alright, so now these SD cards can be read into, this is an example of a card reader that goes in the front of a desktop. As you can see, there's an SD card reader right there, SD, MMC, and whatever, and so on, I should say. Here is usually how it goes. Let's see. Oh, there you go. As you can see that, there you go. That's how you stick it in the SD card reader. I'm not sure if this one supports micro. I don't think it does. Nope. There is, I do have one that does support micro SD, so that's why I'm saying you should always get the one with the adapter. So that's an example of a memory card reader, and you might see them in front of your laptop. This one is not very well labeled. It does have like SD card, MMC right there. You can barely see that, but this is another example of an SD card reader. And so there you have it. If you guys have any other questions in mind or whatever, please let me know in the comments below. And if you find this useful, please share it and thumbs up. This is Big John of Big John Technology, and I'm out.